Hello everyone. Hope you all have prepared well and written the test related to the theory of supply and price determination. Before entering into the discussion on some of the questions where some of you had some doubts and looks like some of the questions had wrong options also. Before entering into that discussion, I would like to first tell you to focus on the learning process more than on the marks, correctness of the answers. That should be also helping the learning process, but that is not the only objective. That will be a side effect or actually a byproduct of our learning process. So if we have anything to learn newly, even from the questions, the answers of which we don't know already, that should be welcomed and that should be accepted with open mind rather than thinking about, I didn't know the answer for this before. It's okay, know it now, so that's not a problem. Don't worry about how many marks we got or why some of the questions went wrong, but definitely there needs to be an introspection of, if at all the answers were marked wrong due to either lack of knowledge, lack of preparation, or due to the hurried manner in which the answers were attempted. If these were the causes for wrong answers, then definitely that has to be rectified. If it was not known to us already, that is not a matter of worry. We know it now. That's it. So understand also, these tests are part of the learning process, not that they are ultimate and they are the ones who will judge what we are. So keep that in mind always. But prepare seriously, attempt seriously all the internal tests that are going to be conducted in future also. And definitely all your questions are always welcome. And as some of you have raised or identified some of the points in some questions, I would like to go through those questions one by one. Looking at the paper 1, question number 11 is what some of you have raised a point that what is this market period and all that. Yeah, I agree that it was not discussed already. It will come definitely at a later point of time. In simple terms, market period is that which is a very short period, we can say. So in a very short period, the supply cannot be increased naturally. So that can be called as market period. So how are we supposed to know this? Nobody said you were supposed to know that. If you don't know that earlier, know it now. The period in which the supply cannot be increased is called as market period. That's it. That is the answer for question number 11, that is A. Then question number 27. 27. Look at this question number 27. That is telling that if there is any increase in the prices of the factors of production, the cost of production of that product will naturally increase. I didn't understand what was the doubt, because cost of production is basically about the cost of manufacturing a product, which includes all the prices of factors of production. So this is a direct question. Question number 27, answer is A. When the prices of factors of production increase, naturally the cost of production of that product also will increase. because cost of production itself means the cost of various factors of production. What does it include? Let us say you pay rent for the land or building. Is that not a cost of production? Yes. We pay wages to the labor. Is that not a cost of production? Yes. So if prices of any of these factors of production increases, naturally the cost of production also will increase. So straight question, nothing wrong with that. 27th question, answer is A. Then 28th question also, obviously will be B, because both are actually same questions. If there is a decrease in the prices of factors of production, the cost of production of that product will decrease. So that is question number 28 and 27. Then there was a doubt about question number 36. Other things being equal, the supply quantity of a product is dash related to the cost of production of that product. This, I would say, is not a valid question at all. Why? Because we cannot relate the supply quantity to cost of production. That is wrong. Supply can be related to the price of a product, but not to the cost of production of the product. So 36th question is absolutely wrong. So don't worry about it, leave it. Then question number 51. The supply curve. Question number 51. The supply curve, the question says it is always a straight line, or it is always a curve, or it can be straight line, it can be curve. I don't know what was the doubt in this. Naturally, is there any rule that it has to be a curve? Or is there any rule that it has to be a straight line? There is no rule like that. It could be a curve, it could be a straight line. So natural answer for question number 51 will be C. I think that was the option given in the key. Nothing wrong with that. Question number 53. What would be the shape of the supply curve of the toys if the seller offers to sell any number of toys at a price of 100? Means the price is fixed at 100. Even at that price, the supplier is ready to sell any number of toys. Means the supply is going to be infinite. When is that possible? At a particular price, if the supplier is ready to supply infinite goods, that is when we can say that particular commodity does not have any elasticity of supply. There is no elasticity of supply at all. Irrespective of the price, the supply quantity, the quantity supplied is going to be constant. So naturally, for 53rd question, the answer would be C, where at a particular price, the supply is going to be infinite. That is when we can say that product is perfectly inelastic. The quantity is going to be any quantity at a particular price. So the price is fixed and the quantity that the supplier is willing to supply is infinite. So that will change. Price is not changing and the quantity is going to be infinite. If that is the case, what it is asked here, what is the shape of the supply curve of the toys if the seller offers to sell any number of toys, not as, it should be at 100 rupees, let us say. So at 100 rupees, if the supplier is ready to sell any number of toys, price is fixed, supply is infinite. So that is when the supply curve is going to be horizontal. That's what we are talking about in this case. That is question number 53. Same price, but the supply is infinite. Anything can be supplied at that price. That's what the supplier is ready for. So that is the meaning of what the question is asking about. So then the supply curve is going to be definitely horizontal. So answer is C for that. Then question number 59 says, in case of increase or decrease in the quantity supplied, the position of the supply curve remains the same. Question number 59. In case of increase or decrease in the quantity supplied, I told you already so many times, read the question carefully. It is not increase or decrease of supply. It is the increase or decrease of quantity supplied. So what happens to the position of supply curve? It remains the same. So that is true. Increase or decrease in quantity supplied means what? That is happening due to change in price. Means that is movement along the supply curve, movement on the supply curve. That is not going to shift the supply curve. So once again, I'm repeating. I told this many number of times. I stressed on this many number of times in the class also. There is a difference in usage between quantity supplied and supply, quantity demanded and demand. We have to observe that difference very carefully. When we say quantity supplied, we are talking about the changes in the supply due to changes in price only. When we use the word supply, we are talking about the changes in supply due to changes in any factor other than price. Same thing applies to demand also. So this is almost at least 30th or 40th time I'm stressing on that point. So once again, I want you to read the questions carefully before answering such questions or thinking that answer is wrong. Of course, there is every possibility that answer could be wrong. I'm not denying that. But read the questions carefully. So 59th question, correct answer is A. That is true. 61st question, question number 61. Increase in the quantity supplied, increase in the quantity supplied due to changes in the price may be called as expansion of supply. Looks like in the key that was given as answer A. A is wrong. That answer in the key is wrong. Change it to B. B is correct. So for question number 61, change the answer to B. That is called expansion of supply. And once again, increase in what? Quantity supplied. That's what we call as expansion of supply. So answer is B for it. 61st question, key is wrong. A is not the correct answer. That's a good observation. Then question number 66. When there is a movement of the supply curve, what are we talking about? So once again, it's a little bit of care that has to be taken. It is not movement on the supply curve. It is the movement of the supply curve. Movement of the supply curve means what? That is shift in the supply curve. Movement on the supply curve is different. Movement of the supply curve is different. The first one is movement on the supply curve, which is happening on the curve. Movement of the curve means the curve itself is moving. When the curve itself will move, when there is a change in supply. So correct answer for question number 66 as per key also is A. So nothing wrong in that. So as far as these questions are concerned in paper 1, question number 66, no problem with the key answer. Question number 61 is also, 61 is wrong. Change the answer to B. Question number 59 is definitely correct answer. Good question. Question number 53 is also correct answer. 51 is also correct answer. 36 is absolutely wrong question first of all. 28 is correct answer. 27 is also correct answer. 11, the first one, is a new thing. So now know it. Market period is nothing but very short period. That's all. Very short period. So that is about question paper 1. Now moving on to question paper 2. There were certain doubts about this question number 9. Those were absolutely genuine, and definitely this calculation, if you do, all of you would have done, and what you said is correct. The answer would be coming to 1.33, which is not there in any of the options. So all these are wrong. Such questions cannot be expected in the ICAI exams. Don't worry about it. These are print mistakes. So that's fine. Question number 9, answers are not there in the MCQs. Correct answer would be, if you calculate, 1.33, which is, I hope, a lot of you what you obtained. 1.33. That is the correct answer for question number 9. That is a correct observation, and options were wrong. Then question number 19, 19. If the elasticity of the supply curve, elasticity of supply itself is infinity, then the supply curve will be 45 degrees straight line. That is wrong. This question is wrong. In the sense, question is okay, but if the elasticity of supply is infinity, means what? Irrespective of the price, any amount of supply is going to be transferred, or irrespective of the change in the price, the supply going to go infinite. So that means when the elasticity of supply is infinity, obviously the supply curve is going to be naturally horizontal. So when the elasticity of supply is infinity, the correct answer for question number 19 should have been A, but it was given as C, which is wrong. So that is when the elasticity of supply is infinity. That means what? At a particular price, any amount of goods can be supplied. If the price changes, then only the supply change will be completely changing. So the elasticity of supply is infinity in that case. Same like the earlier question what we thought. That is about when the supply curve will be horizontal. Perfectly elastic, we can call it. Then question number 24. So this question number 19, key was wrong. Change the correct answer to A. Question number 24 is saying that delta Q is change in quantity supply, delta P is change in price. Then when supply is relatively elastic, it means what it says? The key says it is delta Q equal to delta P. No, we cannot conclude that. So this can be completely cancelled. This question is not valid. Question number 24, we can ignore that. Because the elasticity of supply, particularly when the supply is relatively elastic, when it is relatively elastic, what are we talking about? The numerator is more than denominator. Means delta Q by Q is more than delta P by P. So numerator is more than denominator. Without knowing what is the original quantity and original price, we cannot relate to delta Q and delta P. That doesn't make sense. So question number 24 is invalid question, we can say. Then question number 28. The demand and supply interact. Correct answer, this is 28. Answer is A, naturally. Price and output, that's what we discussed already. Demand and supply interact means what happens at that point? Whenever there is a demand curve and a supply curve, when they interact, what do we determine? One is equilibrium price, two is equilibrium quantity. That's what is mentioned here. Price and output. Output is quantity, right? So correct answer is A for question number 28. Nothing wrong with that. Question number 49. If increase in demand is greater than increase in supply, then what happens to equilibrium price only is asking. Only when he is asking about price only. And very clearly the question says increase in demand is greater than increase in supply. Both demand and supply are moving in same direction, first point. But increase in demand is more than increase in supply. Naturally the prices will increase, right? So the question number 49 correct answer should be B. And what the key says, question number 49, correct answer is B. Nothing wrong in that. Increase in demand is greater than increase in supply. And I told you, if at all you have a doubt, whenever such questions are asked, you can just draw it on a rough graph. That is the best way. What it says here, increase in demand is greater than increase in supply. Okay, fine. Both are increases. So first draw a normal demand curve, original demand curve, and original supply curve. Okay, we have an equilibrium point. price. Right, nice. Then increase in demand, what it will do? Increase in demand will create the demand curve move rightwards, and increase in supply, which is lesser than that, will move the supply curve also rightwards, but the size is little smaller compared to the earlier one. So what is the new demand curve and supply curve? Where is it intersecting with each other? It is intersecting here. So what happened to the price? Simply only what is asked, look at that. Don't worry about the entire thing. What is asked? What was asked is, what happens to the equilibrium price? Increases. Original price was this. Now if it is, let us say P1, it has increased. That's what happened. This is the new equilibrium point. This was the original equilibrium point. Increase in demand happened, increase in supply happened, but increase in demand is more than increase in supply. Straight question. But once again, if you don't draw it, if you want to by heart it, let me once again tell you, it is going to create a lot of mess. Don't get into that. If you get into that, nobody can help you afterwards. Coming out of that loop, the thought of these things, if you fall into a loop wise thought, increase, decrease, decrease, increase, if that increased more than this decreased more than that, both are equal, 100 multiple combinations are possible. If we only want to remember them, difficult. Please don't try to do that. That is not correct approach for that. Only correct approach is to draw it. Whenever such question is asked, simply draw. Small rough diagram is enough. So question number 49, what we had was B. That was the correct answer. Let us look at question number 51. 51. Once again, increase in demand is greater than increase in supply. Just now we drew that unnecessarily. We erased it. Same thing. Yeah, good that it is there. So increase in demand is there. It is greater than increase in supply. Same question actually. But what happens to both here? We are looking at. We are not looking at only the price. We are also looking at quantity. So okay, fine. We know about quantity also. Original quantity was Q. Now quantity is Q1. What happened to that? That also increased. So price also increased. Quantity also increased. So what should be the correct answer for question number 51? Equilibrium price and quantity both will increase. That is the correct answer. Nothing wrong with that. Next. That was question number 51. Question number 60. Then, if a decrease in demand is equal to decrease in supply. Okay, let us see what happens. There is nothing to be remembering about it. You have to just check and every time find out what happens depending upon the question. So what the question says, decrease in demand is equal to decrease in supply. Equal is always a little bit difficult to draw, but let us try that. What happens? So naturally first we should start with a normal demand curve, normal supply curve, fine. Now what happened? Decrease in demand happened. Decrease in demand means this demand curve has decreased here. But before that I would suggest first draw the original equilibrium point, otherwise later it will be confusing. So this is P, this is Q. Okay, done. This is original demand and supply curve. Always this is a starting point for any question. Now changes will come. Decrease in demand means demand curve will move leftwards. Okay, fine. Decrease in supply means the supply curve moves leftwards. But these two should be ideally equal. So assuming almost equal. So what happened here? Decrease in demand and a decrease in supply both are equal. So what happened here? This is the new equilibrium point that we have, isn't it? This is the new equilibrium point. Earlier equilibrium point was this. Now the new equilibrium point is this. What happened here? The price remained the same, but the quantity has decreased. That's all. Where is the answer? You have to just choose it. Question number 60. Equilibrium prime remains the same, but the quantity increases. This is the problem. Okay. D is the correct answer, it says, but this is wrong. This is print mistake. Quantity will not increase, sir. It will decrease. Change that one. It will decrease. Okay. So that's it. That was a print mistake because the C and D are having same options. That itself is wrong. So in case of question number 60, answer would be D. If at all it is D, then the option should be the last one, not increase. That should be decrease. That is question number 60. Then question number 76. Question number 76. Yeah. Yeah, this one, question number 76. If a fisherman must sell all of his daily catch before it spoils for whatever price he is offered once the fish are caught. This is an example of perishable commodity. We discussed that perishable commodities. The fisherman's price elasticity of supply. So, will there be any price elasticity that is possible for a perishable commodity? Not possible. That is zero. Because even if the prices of the fish increases in future, increases on that day, he cannot bring more fish. Already whatever fish he has, that only has to supply to the market. Even though the price of the fish is so low in that day, he cannot keep it in the refrigerator and sell it tomorrow. That is the assumption of perishable commodities. You may say that, okay, there are cold storages and all that. Everybody knows that. So we are not talking exceptional things. Normally for perishable commodities, they are actually perfectly, we can say, inelastic. So theoretically speaking, since in this question it says that fish is a perishable commodity, it is perfectly inelastic. It has perfectly inelastic supply. So we can say the elasticity of supply for fresh fish is zero. That is the correct answer. That is question number 76. Nothing wrong with that also. So he has to supply whatever the quantity he has. Simple logic. When the elasticity of supply is zero, the quantity is fixed. The quantity is fixed. It is not changing. Price might change, but he will not be in a position to change the quantity. He cannot suddenly produce fish. Not possible. So quantity is fixed. Price might change. So in the supply curve, how it will be? If the quantity is fixed, price might change. It will be like this. Quantity is fixed. That is this example where the price elasticity of supply is zero. Or we can call it perfectly inelastic. If it is perfectly elastic, where the price is fixed, the quantity can be infinite. Price is same, but the quantity can be infinite. In that case, the elasticity of supply will be also infinite. So in this case, the elasticity of supply is zero. In this case, the elasticity of supply is infinite. These are the two extremes, which are practically not possible, but still questions can be asked about them. So these are part of the theory questions which are already there in the study material. So I hope you have already studied that well. If not also, if at all you faced some difficulties in answering these questions, my suggestion would be always to read the study material well, and any particular area of topic which you are not really comfortable with, you may refer to the video class once again and try to write it if possible, and most importantly, draw the graphs wherever required. That is going to be very, very important. That will really ease up answering of many questions rather than just thinking in the mind, oh, what happens, that decreases, this increases. So that will be creating a big mess. So don't enter into that thought process. Straight, simple, draw a graph, and most of the questions, the technical questions related to changes in the price and quantity, changes in the demand and supply, how they will have impact on the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, those type of questions can be very well answered only if you draw. And the good news in that is you don't have to remember by heart or remember anything. Once you know it, you know it. Every time, whenever any question comes, you will be freshly able to answer that with perfect solution in front of you. With the proof, you can answer that. Not that I know it, so I answer it. No, not like that. You can prove it anytime if somebody asks also. So that is why drawing a graph, particularly for such kind of questions, is always advisable. So these are the various questions which were raised in the group, that there have been some doubts. I hope your doubts got clarified now. If not also, feel free to post them. I'll try to clarify them if any doubts continue to exist. Okay, fine then. So we'll meet up in another class. Of course, let me also tell you, this having a video recording is not a big deal. Actually, it can be done for all classes also, but the practical issue or point is, it doesn't add any value. This is a short session, so we can do like this, interactive, or if not interactive, also at least there can be a video attached to this class of my face. So I always feel, for a real serious class that we are listening to, real serious class we are following, so what is the use of this corner face? I don't find any value addition there. So that's why, whether there is a static picture or a moving me talking like this, it's not going to make much difference when it comes to classes, is what we have thought, and we strongly believe that. That is why, though it's not going to be a really big deal to add one small camera, we have kept it intentionally like that, so that the focus will be on the subject. If I am doing like this, if I am doing like this, or like this, or like having some mannerisms or anything else, like movements unnecessarily, if at all these things are there, the focus from the screen suddenly can get deviated here unnecessarily, which has no value addition. So I just wanted to clarify that also. Occasionally like this, we can definitely have some interaction. Even we can plan for some live interactions also in future. We'll see that, depending upon the technical support that everybody of us has got. Will interact even in video format more frequently in future. But as far as the normal subject related classes are concerned, we would continue with a static photo than a moving object, just looking at the camera and looking at the screen unnecessarily. It will deviate, in fact, both the parties. So that's why we'll continue in the same way what we have been doing. I hope you have been able to follow that. And any other questions or doubts, if you have, feel free to post them in the group. There is nothing wrong in not knowing. Please let me once again reiterate. There is nothing wrong in not knowing already. But if we wish not to know, that is wrong. Or if we want to believe that we know everything, that is also wrong. So don't feel shy or don't feel embarrassed to ask any type of questions. If I tell any answer as a question format, understand it is also part of the technique of making you think. Not that I am questioning you, I am questioning the question. So sometimes questioning a question will give us the answer. So automatically, with a logical way, we can conclude and we can understand the subject, rather than I or me telling something and you listening. That's all. Whatever I told is economics. Nothing like that. It's not like that. Economics is a vast subject. To the extent that I had in my short experience, is what I'm sharing with you. With the real world, whatever, wherever possible, we can relate. We relate. But again, it is not possible always. You would have observed already, since it is a theory subject. A lot of things are practically not possible to be related. Wherever they are possible, we'll try to relate them and understand them easily. If not, we have to accept that and move on. There is no option. So by now, definitely after more than 30 classes, I'm sure you would have observed and you have been into the groove of how actually to learn economics. This is the way to learn economics, focusing on the concepts, understanding how it happens, as much as possible from a practical perspective. If not possible, not worrying about it. That should be the positive thought process with which this subject has to be learned. I hope you're all enjoying this learning process, and we'll continue this in the further classes later. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you very much.